All right. Hello, and thank you for joining us for our June 2025 WiscWeb Lunch and Learn session. I'm Jenna Klinner. I'm the service coordinator for the WiscWeb team, and I'm joined here by a few folks today, including Matt Goins, Ketter Joyner, Andrew Roning, and a few other WiscWeb and Office of Strategic Communication developers and staff. So yeah, welcome today. First up, we'll just kind of go through the agenda. If you want to go to the next slide, Matt. We've got service-specific updates and reminders, and then we've got Gutenberg updates and reminders, and then we've got some really fun Gutenberg demos for you, so you can continue to see what we've been building in the new theme. That'll include the featured post single query loop, which will replace the related posts feature that exists in the current UW theme, the new hero carousel block. We're going to show you some new arrow link styling that is going to be used on the UW link and group of links blocks. And then we'll show you a full page pattern called the service area page. All right, in terms of WiscWeb service updates and reminders, first up is a reminder that we are not taking customization requests right now from June 2nd, which has already passed, through July 18th. That's because that billing process is impacted by the workday transition. We want to give those folks a bit of a break during an already busy time. So we will not be taking requests, and we'll resume after July 18th if all looks okay. Another update here is the site not found message on your site may look different. So if you attempt to go to a page or a website that maybe has launched and no longer exists at the old project URL, you'll notice that that site not found message looks a little bit different. It's also served a lot faster to you. So Scott Berg made some nice improvements to that, just noting in case you notice any differences. But for the most part, you shouldn't be very impacted. Works pretty similarly to how it did before. A reminder, we sent an email about this, but we are changing our WAF settings a bit. If you happen to see an error message, just follow the instructions in the error, and that will point you to emailing help@doit. We do want to be aware if you encounter any errors, but for the most part, you shouldn't see anything. So that's good. Pausing here because I see there's a question in the chat. Are you still taking new WiscWeb site requests at this time? Is there any delay? So that's, I think, related to that first note, which was about customizations. Yes, we're still taking WiscWeb new site requests. That's unrelated to that customization freeze. Yep. And then our last reminder, please update your existing WP data tables that use Google Sheets to use the new process. So if you recall, WP data tables and Google Sheets were updated recently. For the most part, that only impacted new Google Sheets as of a certain date. However, we are encouraging people to update their data tables powered by Google Sheets that had been existing, even though they still work right now, because at any time, Google could change that and then those would break. So it's better to be ahead of it, make some time to get those transitioned. Matt linked the KB documentation that walks you through how to make those changes. I'll pause here in case that's new for anyone. We did present that previously, but just in case there's any questions about that. All right, I'm not seeing anything, so I think we can move on. But if you have any questions, please feel free to post them in the chat. Next slide, please, Matt. All right, so Gutenberg updates and reminders. We are in our third round of accessibility testing. So shout out to Leah Bowers at the Center for User Experience, who is amazing. And she's been doing our testing, which is so helpful. So that's in flight right now. She's been catching really great things that we can make updates to in the theme to make it more accessible. We're starting to plan for the launch process. So that is a big process, but we're really excited about the fact that we're able to start planning for that. And I think we'll share more information about that as we can. We're also just starting to develop some support materials and kind of suss out how we're going to do training support for the process. We are still waiting on the Workday rollout before we release a launch date. So we still really want to see how things shake out with that before we advertise a date, but we're still shooting for fall of this year. So I know that's a question that's at the top of a lot of folks' minds. And then for reminders, please check the Gutenberg status page and the WiscWeb migration page. Those are two pages that are going to be frequently updated with new information about this transition. I'll post them in the chat here. It's not going to be as elegant as what Matt posted just because I'm copying and pasting. Hopefully those will link there. But we have great information about kind of what this transition looks like from a high-level theme perspective, as well as from a WiscWeb perspective. So really want you to make sure you're checking in on those pages for new information as they are being updated. All right, next slide, please. All right, in an effort to be really candid about what this experience will look like for all of you who are in WiscWeb specifically, we wanted to provide some information about things that won't be available for launch. Some of this does pertain to those who are using the theme as distributed developers, and I'll try to note that where I can, but predominantly a lot of this is targeted for WiscWeb. Unless we get time, these items on this slide will not be available for launch of the new theme. This includes the document listing, image only carousel, so that's a carousel that simply shows an image with no text on it, certain WiscWeb plugins. So a lot of our effort right now is rebuilding the theme. And I think there's a lot of folks who might not realize that a lot of the functionality that you have on your site is actually delivered to you via a custom WiscWeb plugin that includes things like the publications plugin. And UW events. We'll do our best to have things ready for you by launch, but there will be some things that won't be ready. And we know right now publications plugin is one of those things. If you have custom colors and logos on your site, that would be another thing that won't be available right at launch. But we want to make sure that you knew that. And like I said, we'll do the best to accommodate those when we can. Also, something that we just wanted to note, we've decided not to accommodate the hidden hero banner feature that exists currently in the theme for launch. There's a chance that will be reassessed at a later date, but just expect that that won't be available. So if you have any hidden banners in your hero carousel area, those will just be visible. So you'll have to kind of keep that in mind. Okay, I'm going to pause there in case there's questions about that particular slide. All right, I think we can move on to the next one. All right, things that are going away. So they're in this transition. This is really specific to WiscWeb, but there are some things that we've decided are not going to continue once we move into the new infrastructure for Gutenberg and the new theme. One of those things is commenting. So we have a low usage of commenting on sites currently, but it does introduce some security risks that we're not comfortable with. So that will be going away. You will not have the opportunity to use comments on your site once you move into the new Gutenberg state. Gravity Forms integration with WP data tables. Similarly, this introduces some security risks that we're not comfortable with. So we're not going to be continuing use of that plugin. If you're currently using that plugin and want to kind of understand alternatives, please reach out via our WiscWeb support forum. We're happy to meet with you to kind of chat about that. Reusable content. Reusable content allowed you to create content in one place and kind of use it throughout your site via shortcode. In Gutenberg, this will be replaced by something called synced patterns. So you'll have very similar abilities with that, where you can create content in one place and put it on multiple pages. So we're not going to rebuild the reusable content plugin. It will not have a migration path either. So you will have to manually move that content into synced patterns in the new theme. And finally, the Enable Media Replace plugin. So this plugin, if you recall, allowed you to kind of change out a document or image that was on your site and replace it, and either just replace it in that one instance or replace it site-wide. This has some conflicts with our new caching setup. Our new infrastructure will back up and serve media files from various distributed servers for increased performance, and that plugin is just not compatible, unfortunately. So if you were used to using this plugin, we are recommending in the future that you upload those same files to Box and link out to them instead, which will allow you to continue kind of making adjustments to them without it kind of breaking the content on your site. That was also a lot of new info. Pausing again. Oh, sorry. Pausing again in case there's questions about those changes. Also, just note as part of kind of like that last bullet, caching will be a little bit different in that new state. So generally, we're going to be doing a little bit more caching so that performance is a little bit better in that new environment, but that might mean that previewing your content might look a little different in the future state. What will happen to reusable content once the migration happens? Will users just see the short code if nothing is done? Great question, Paige. Yes, I think that's probably what you'll see, or you'll see like a might be like an HTML block that just has the short code in it. But generally, you wouldn't see what you'd expect to see on that page, and you'll have to make a decision about how to source that content. Let me know if there's any follow-ups on that. All right, I think we can advance to the next slide. This information has been out on our status page that I posted earlier, that Gutenberg status page that just shows kind of like what the old UW theme page element was and what it's being mapped to in the Gutenberg theme. But I did just want to call this out as a reminder for folks. I think it's really good info. The first thing would impact everyone here. So right now, as you build out content with different content layout rows in your UW theme site, it is alternating between white and light gray backgrounds automatically for you. Those will be honored in the migration, but they will not show up for new pages. So as you migrate your content, that page that migrated will still have that alternating scheme. But as you build new pages, you'll have to manually set that if you want that behavior. And then we have two notes that are more related to UW theme distributed developers, which is advanced custom fields will not be packaged in with the theme any longer. We are not using ACF. And the custom CSS option in the customizer is also going away. So if you were using either of those, please note that those will be changing. For the most part, WiscWeb users are not impacted by that as much, unless you also host your own UW theme site somewhere. And pausing again in case there's questions about. All right. And then I think we have at least one more slide here. There are some things that we've noted are not going to automatically migrate for you when you transition to Gutenberg. And we wanted to make sure you were aware of these ahead of time, but we will also remind you when you actually start migrating. Hero banners. So this was something interesting where we kind of looked at the new, this is delivered by patterns in most cases. The new kind of structure and design for heroes will have some content for you that you can choose from automatically, but there isn't sort of a one-to-one match for what existed in the UW theme, and we want to allow folks to choose the banner pattern that they feel works for them the best based on their needs and their content that they're creating. So rather than smashing that content into one of the existing lovely banners that have been created, we want that to be a choice for all of you. So if you just have a hero carousel that just has a static image with no featured content inset or no headline, that will migrate over automatically. But if you use the headline field or featured content inset, That content will not migrate. You'll have to recreate it and choose from existing banner patterns for that. We hope that that is limited in terms of how much work that is for you, because typically we see banner use on homepage and maybe just a couple interior pages, but certainly let us know if you have any concerns. But generally, that's just to give you an opportunity to choose what's best for your group, and so that we're not forcing you into any styles that don't make sense. Inline styles, we have been kind of sharing this along the way, but if you do any inline styling in your site currently, that is not going to migrate over. You will have to manually kind of edit that content and rebuild it in the theme. If you are using any kind of spreadsheets inside of tabs, that is not going to work in the future state, and you'll have to rethink that content. Typically, that might mean just moving it outside of tabs or building separate pages for that content. Block quotes. So within your text block in the UW theme classic, calling that UW theme classic, which is the current theme that we are on, there is a little block quote icon in that editor. And you might have been using that for quotes rather than the stylized quote page element. If you are using that, it's not going to automatically migrate, and you'll just have to manually move that to a like a new quote block. Pausing for a second, I see a question in the chat about inline styling. Yes. So the user was wondering, is inline styling like HTML in the text blocks? Absolutely. Yes. That's what thank you for asking that question. That's a good clarifying question that I should have mentioned. I'm talking about HTML in those text blocks. Yep, absolutely. Search box shortcode. So we currently have a little shortcode where you can place a search box anywhere on your page. And that is not something that's going to auto migrate, but we do have a feature that is going to mimic that behavior. It is the native Gutenberg search block. So you'll just have to manually add that block to your page. And then widgets on post pages. There are widget blocks available. They will not automatically be available as they are now on your news pages. You'll have to build that in. And if you want it on every news page, you're going to have to create a pattern for that. Question in the chat. Can we get a copy of part of the presentation, or is this available in the Gutenberg area of the site? Great question, Linda. If you go back up to the links that I posted earlier where it says WiscWeb migration webpage, I'll repost below your comment. That is a great place to look for this information about what is changing and what will not auto migrate. We have a new section on that webpage that's just called things that will change. But then in the frequently asked questions, there's also a question about what won't migrate, and we try to keep track of all that information there if that's helpful. But I'm also happy to download the slide deck if anyone would like it. What are spreadsheets? Are they different than WP data tables? Yeah, so I think we're mostly talking about WP data tables, but correct me if I'm wrong, Andrea, if that also means like tables or maybe
Right.
embedded Google Sheets.
I think at this time we've limited what goes inside a tabs block to not include HTML tables or Google Sheets or other types of things, but we could yeah, see what the need is. But I think right now, the tabs block will not allow all of the things that the current UW theme allows inside of that.
Thank you for confirming, Andrea. Any other questions on this slide about things that are changing? Can you show an example? Are you looking for an example specifically of spreadsheets and tabs, Tiffany? Yes. Okay. I don't know that I have one handy. Matt's doing something though. He knows.
No, but I can show you. It's just literally
Oh,
using the short.
actually,
it's using the shortcode inside of a tab. That's
Jenny just pasted one if you want to show
Yep.
that.
Yep, there we go.
Yeah. Thank you, Jenny. Any
Yeah,
other
SecFac,
questions?
SecFac, we're gonna have to do some strategizing. Because I know you have a couple that have to do with calendars inside of tabs, so that'll be a conversation we'll have to have.
All right, I think we can move on to the next slide there. And the final thing that I just wanted to share, I think it's a final thing here, is a card sorting activity. This is something that we're looking for volunteers to complete a 30-minute card sorting activity for us. It is unmoderated. No meeting is required. You can do it on your own time. This is just going to help us understand how to categorize and label our patterns, our beautiful patterns in the new theme. If you are interested in helping us out, just respond yes in the chat or reach out directly to Ketter Joiner on Microsoft Teams. But we appreciate your help on this to make that really user-friendly for all of you. Wow. That is great feedback. Thank you for everyone who is interested in helping.
Ketter, make sure you're running through
There
this
is a
list now.
question. There is a question. When is this activity running? I don't know, Ketter, if you have information on particularly when.
Yes, I did capture everything in chat, I think. Thank you, everybody. That is the best response. I'm so excited. I'll probably reach out to people early next week. So just keep a lookout in your email with instructions. Should be pretty simple. Maybe it will take you less than 30 minutes, but yeah, thanks for being willing to participate.
Thank you all. All right, and I think if you go to the next slide, Matt, it should be demos, but let's see. Yeah, all right.
Yep.
Time for
Yep,
demo
yep.
time. And I think Andrea's up first with a demo of the single query loop.
Yeah. And we'll share my screen. Go. Okay, now move around all the Zoom windows. Cool. Okay, so WordPress, the block editor has a lot of great things about it. And we currently have some functionality in the current classic UW theme. So like here's an example of just a test post that has a related post below it. And here's an example of pulling in a piece of featured content onto a page. And that is, the link to that test post over there. Yeah, so the query loop in WordPress does a lot of good things, but it doesn't allow you to just choose a specific piece of content. And that is what we set out to accomplish with the UW featured post. So I will pull up a kind of example site. I wanted to build out a site that had a bunch of blog posts and I needed a subject. So I went onto our PhotoShare website and found lots of pretty sunsets and places where these beautiful sunsets were taken and built out some test content there. So let's see. Here's a home page with some recent posts. We'll talk a little bit about how to build that out with just a regular query loop. And then here's a highlighted post. We'll talk about how to use the UW featured post block to pull in a very specific post. And we'll start with that. Okay, so here is the editing experience for this page. And if I pull open my list view, you can see that there's a lot going on here. There is a banner with an overlay, and then there's content in two columns here. I'm here inside this left column, and you can see that there is a query loop block here, and this is looping through our most recent posts. So I'll delete this to show you how we can add it pretty easily. So I'm going to go, here's my recent post headline. I'll press enter to get a new line. And then I'm going to open up our patterns drawer over here on the left. I clicked the plus insert button and went to the patterns selection. So there's a lot of great patterns in here. And the few that we'll focus on for this demonstration is the post listings pattern. This is where it's going to be the most recent posts and a series of 5 of them. And then another option we have is the featured post pattern, and this is going to be 1 post a piece. But because this is the recent posts, I am going to drop in post listing, and I have images for all of these. So I'm going to choose this one that has the featured image and the headline and the excerpt. And if I open up my document overview, list view drawer, I can kind of see how this was built out. So inside this post template, if I open up this settings drawer over here, I can see, oh, let's see. I've got to click on the right piece. I can see that there are 5 items per page. Perhaps I want to show fewer than that. Maybe I only want 3. So I could change that to 3, and now there's only 3 showing. And then I can see that there's, featured image over here. That's cool. But yeah, perhaps my website is not super content heavy and or not super photo heavy, and I want to be able to show a post listing that doesn't have featured images. If I click on this kind of parent of the query loop, I can click on this button that is change design, and this will bring up any of the patterns that are allowed within the query loop. And one of those is just a list that is headings and excerpts and dates. So it's really easy to change back and forth. You'll notice though that, I changed it to just show 3 items per page, and that has reset to 5. So when you hit change design, you really are like pulling in the whole pattern. So if I had made changes before, if I had decided like I wanted to change the order of things, for example, like maybe I wanted the date to go below the excerpt or something like that. And then I hit change design and then brought it back in, it would like reset it to where that pattern had started out with. So just a note there, it'll be really easy to work with, I think, but it'll be something that you'll want to work with a little bit. And the query loop is great. There are lots of cool things it does. You can sort by newest to oldest, oldest to newest. You can, nudist. You can choose between posts or pages. You can do like filters and only show a certain category. I think the query loop is going to get you pretty far, but what it doesn't do is allow you to just pick the one thing that you wanted to show. I think it also doesn't, if you're on a post, it doesn't exclude the post you're already on. So if you're showing recent posts and you're on a post, it'll show you the post you're on. That's weird. So, here's an example of a post that I really want to highlight. And just to show you how we added this, I could delete this off the page. And from here, I can add either through a pattern, but I'll show you through the block just to show you a different way to add this. So we've got our UW featured post. And from here, I can hit choose to choose a pattern. I'm going to actually choose the one without any images for this case because it's such a tight little column that the images wouldn't fit as well. And you'll see when I drop this in, it still gave me like all 5 posts, and that's too many posts for this case. But what'll happen is now when I search and I choose just the 1 post, it will just show the 1 post. So this is a way that we could easily add a post to a page. If I wanted to do more than one, another trick I could do is to come over here and just duplicate that, and then making sure that I've got the second block selected. I really like this list view so that it's clear which thing I'm working on. I could come in here and I could choose a different post. Okay, so that is kind of building out a home page. I'll talk about an actual post and post related to on a post page next, but I'll pause here for just a second. Were there any questions? I don't see the question bar at the moment.
You know what? I got booted out during that. I don't know if you can hear me. So I can't see them anymore either.
Yeah, and so there was one, do they all have to have a featured image? Jenna answered that to say, nope, it's okay to have some images and some that do not. And then there was a question about selecting only a particular category for the post list. And then obviously you've demoed the fact that yes, you can limit it down to just the a specific category of
Awesome.
your content. Yeah, that's
Great.
it.
All right. So yeah, this was our homepage. If we look at this now, we can kind of see that we've got our 2 highlighted posts and recent posts that don't have any featured images. That's all cool. So if I were to go to this alumni park, you can see how we have some related posts built there, and I can show you how that was built. So related posts, it's a really similar deal where it's a related posts heading, and below that, it's a featured post. And I could just choose the exact post that I really wanted to highlight. And that is, I'm choosing the same one again. Here we go, Lakeshore Path, for example. So yeah, it's a nice way that you can choose specific content to link to below, or honestly, it could be anywhere on the page. And you'll have a lot more control about how this looks compared to the current UW theme. And then, right, this change design button is still there, which is pretty handy. So it's pretty easy to be able to build out a list of related posts kind of per page. And then another thing that you could do, perhaps, if you wanted to have this on more than one page, is you could create a pattern. And for the purpose of this demonstration, I created a pattern in the past, so I can bring open another example of here's a post with the Memorial Unit Terrace. And if I edit this, I can go into my content, I can hit enter, and then here in patterns, this My Patterns category, these are patterns that are actually saved in the database for this site. So most of the patterns you'll see here are coming along with the theme. They're patterns that our wonderful designers have created and are there for you to get started. The My Patterns category is truly patterns that I've made that I want to use on my site. So I can click here and click on related posts, and you can see it just drops right in that group that has a heading and 2 related posts in it. And then once I'm in here, I could decide like, oh, the Memorial Union Terrace, I wouldn't want to repeat that again. That should definitely be something else. So I could come down here and select perhaps the Lakeshore Path. All right. That is it for my demo. Any comments, questions before I stop sharing? All right.
It's a me. Okay, so I think I'm doing the next 2 demos, which is the Hero Carousel and then just a little demo of the new arrow styles for the group of link stuff. Okay, should be good. There we go. Okay.
I think
Wait.
Ketter has some stuff for the group
Oh.
of links too. So we'll
Oh,
we'll
sorry.
check in with her.
That's okay.
Okay.
No, you're
I
good.
thought she was going to touch on the service area page too. So,
Oh, okay,
Ketter,
gotcha.
anytime you want to talk, you talk.
She's
right.
just providing a little background on why we changed the UW link, I think.
Yeah. Okay. Dun, 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 dun. All right, here we go. So, one thing to note, one of the changes that we have made or you're going to see is when you add a page, this is leading into later on, but I'm showing it to you now because it obviously shows up when I'm creating a new page. We're going to have our starter patterns available to you, and this will play into some of these page layouts that are going to be pre-designed for people. Right now, you can kind of see the first 2 are in there, a topic page and a service area page. We'll touch on the service area page in a little bit, but I just want you to be aware of when you first are working with this, this little starter pattern modal window will show up. You can turn it off if you want to with a little slider down at the bottom right. But I just want you to be aware of the fact that, like, for those of you who are going to be like building brand new content, this will be a nice way to sort of start with what we have available. All right. So I'm going to give it a little title there. I'm going to click the plus sign in the upper left, which is our block inserter. And I'm going to do a search for hero because we're going to add the UW hero carousel. And so I can either click on it or just drag it right on over into here. And that is what we're going to see now. So you can kind of see how this works. I can move through the content right there. You'll see that there's a text area or there's a stack of blocks right here with a headline, a paragraph, and then our link option right there. And I can come in here and I can change text. And I could talk about the cool things happening in this particular image. And then I could click here and I could edit the link to go to send it to, let's say, Wiseman. I'll click save, and that's how you can do that. And so you can add a new slide by clicking on the little add default slide. It will add this particular slide. We just have this one as sort of like the default. You can always go in and change this image if you'd like. So if I wanted to, for those of you who remember the demo sessions that we've done, what we're doing is we're actually using the cover block. And that's what's being used here with some columns and some stacking of content in there. So that's how this is working with the carousel there. And so if I wanted to change this image, I could just click on the cover block itself, click replace right up here. I can either upload, use the featured image, which is what we see, or open the media library. Let's go ahead and open the media library and let's grab let's have stuff up here that I've been using for a while now. Let's grab Batman. I'm Batman. And there we go. So now I could open up the slider and I could change the focal point of this image if I wanted to. You can kind of see how that works with that. So if I wanted to start with a fresh slate, I could add a blank slide and then just kind of start from there. And I could, again, go back in, start to add the media library. There's that one. I could go in and start to add some paragraphs, some headlines. I can start to tinker around with this a little bit more. Yeah, that's how you do that one right there. Yeah, that's, if I wanted to, I could change that opacity if I so desired. Right there. So one of the questions that came up as we were kind of tinkering with this is also, these are just two ways that you can add heroes. Another way that I could start to add some more of my own hero patterns or some of the predefined hero patterns is if I went to patterns and I went to banner. This takes a little bit of work, but I can drag this one in. There's that one. Go back to ye old list view right here. I'm going to delete the one that I created. I'm just going to drag this guy. Oh, it's not a. I just tested this with a different one, so I need to grab an actual.
You have to choose
Sorry,
one that
I choose a hero.
the cover
Yeah.
block.
Yep. Banner. This one. And then, yeah, so then I just drag this up into here. And now I've added one of the other predefined heroes to this hero carousel. And same idea with deleting. You saw me do it once, but if I find one I don't want, I can just click on the little vertical ellipses there, the 3 dots, and then just click delete right there. Let's see, a couple of questions that have come up into here. Can we still have the individual heroes that aren't needed at the moment? The hide a hero feature will not be available, but as Ketter said, and then it was kind of reiterated a little bit low as well, you can create your own patterns similar to what I showed right here with these. And then yeah, as Andrea showed, you'll have your my patterns, you just give them a particular name, and then you could have a lot of pre-built content that you can drag in and drag out. This also kind of gets into what we talked about earlier with the whole reusable content aspect of it as well. You build your own patterns that have some of that content in it, and then it's saved to that particular site. Therefore, it can be used in multiple locations within the site itself. So yeah, and then Kelly asked that question and was reiterated there as well. So any other questions about the hero carousel? It will not be automatic. It will still be interactive for advancing the slides, or interacting for advancing the slides. But because I know that's a question that I get quite often is, can it just slide on its own? Nope. That's a decision that we have made to not have it do that.
There's another question in the chat about
There's-
saved patterns.
There's 2 more questions in the chat.
Yeah.
3
So
more?
someone asked, when you say saved patterns are with that site, does that mean that I could save my pattern and have it be visible or usable for other users of that same site? And the answer is yes, that will be saved site-wide. Video clips in Hero is not something that we have for launch, so that won't be something that will be available. And then what about migrating other hidden content? We often duplicate and hide content blocks on our homepage. Great question, Laura. You can wrap that in a group block, and then you can hide that entire grouping. So Matt, maybe if you just like add a paragraph.
Yeah, let me just.
And then if you go ahead and just like
Yep,
wrap
go here.
group block.
Group. Okay. And then.
In your right
Yep.
sidebar is a setting for
Yep.
that.
The visibility, hide group, yes or no? So we do have that slider to hide it, and then it can come back there. Bingo. Okay. Next up is the group of links option. I'll just drop an enter into here. Again, I'll just kind of create a little bit of paragraphs there, and then I'll go back to my block view, and then I'll type in UW group of links, drop that in. Oh, I did this wrong, didn't I? Yeah, yeah. It's the UW link, not the group of links. See? This is what you get, folks. Too many things going through your brain. Okay, so one of the things that we did add for the UW link, it's part of the group of links, but I apologize for that, is the different type of style selector for the link graphic. So the default is this red circle with the white arrow pointing to the right. You can also change that to just a blue link style with the blue arrow to the right. And again, you'll see the interactivity on the mouse over there. And then lastly, if you don't want any sort of decoration on it, you could just click on the far right option, which is just no arrow. It still has the underline decoration happening, but that is no arrow functionality there as well. Keter.
Yeah. Do you mind if I share my screen really quick?
I will stop my share.
Cool. Let's see, desktop 3. Can you see it? Almost. Let's see.
Wait for it. There it is.
Yay. Okay. Yeah, like Matt shared, we've got these 3 different styles that you can switch between. And so I'll just kind of provide you an overview as to why we made some specific design decisions with those. And this circle arrow here, I'm looking at 2 screens, by the way, so if I'm like flipping this way, sorry about that. The circle arrow floats to the left, and you'll want to use that for content that you want to have high emphasis. So thinking of things like apply for a program, sign up for the study, enroll today, kind of links like that. So it's meant to be a little bit more like bold and attention grabbing. So best for primary calls to action. It's also kind of ideal for links that you want that to be kind of the first thing that they see on the page as they're scrolling or within a content section, because that red really grabs the eye from that visual standpoint. And then let's switch this to just the arrow style, which is just the blue link that floats to the right. I'm really bad at left and right, floats to the right. And so that kind of you can sort of see in relation to the in comparison to the red arrow, it kind of guides the eye forward to sort of a next step if you're using it in that way. And you might be used to this style, a similar style in the UW theme, the classic UW theme. This is what that is replacing. So you might already be using that. It'll just look a little different. So you want this one to be used for content that has more of a medium emphasis. So it kind of provides still that visual cue that there's a link, but it doesn't demand as much attention as the circle arrow. And so it's also helpful for groups that maybe have more of like a blue forward color palette. So some people kind of have more red buttons that they use, or they might have more blue buttons that they use. So it's good for that case too, or depending on your overall kind of design decisions that you've made for your site. And then the no arrow style, that's just more bold than a standard link. And then you still, like Matt said, you retain that animated hover state. Then as you can kind of see, we're going from high to medium to low emphasis. This one would be the lowest emphasis for your content. And so it's also good if you're looking for more of like a minimal, clean layout, or if you've got like a tight layout where that arrow maybe takes up too much space, but you still need it to have that emphasis to it that stands out from the rest of the body content on the page. And then this is similar to the group of links. You have access to those same styles here. If you're looking at an individual one, you can change the style of these as well. And these just aren't red on hover, and that's because, or the circle arrow is not red in the group of links block. And that's really because when you have so much red in a tight area, it becomes really visually chaotic and can make it actually more distracting to read. And you don't want people to like gloss over those resource links if you have them. So that's why we made that particular design decision. So yeah, hopefully that makes sense. I'll stop sharing my screen here. Cool.
Awesome. In that same vein, I wondered if we should show how group of links changed as a result of user testing too, because we got some feedback on that during user testing. So I'll let Matt kind of take it away.
Well, I'll let you talk through it if you want to.
Oh, I can talk through it. Yeah. This is group of links block, and in user testing, how this worked was you wouldn't see any links on the page until you actually linked your text. But the feedback we got from users is that experience was a little bit confusing because you'd publish and then you wouldn't see anything until you linked it. but we've updated this so you will see something on the front end, even if you don't link the text, just so you know, like content is there, nothing's broken. So just sharing that it was helpful feedback for us. We appreciate you, those of you who tested, and that was one of the little changes we made as a result. We may have showed that before, but just reiterating. Yeah, Matt's showing the front end view.
These
There you
links don't
go.
go anywhere yet,
Hold
so.
on. Yeah.
Okay. All right, last thing to touch on before we call it a day is the new page patterns. So I'm going to go ahead and just bounce out of this guy and I will add a new page. And so again, like I said earlier, when you first create a page, you will get this little pop-up that is the the pattern selector for the pre-designed pages that we have, page layouts, I guess I should say there. And so again, we have the topic page and the service area page. I'll choose the service area page. And there's just a lot of pre-defined layout and content in here that you can then come in and start to change as you see fit. We can give it a title. Again, some subtopics here, some information. Over on the right side, we have some other blocks, group blocks that have heading values and then some of our buttons in there. Again, some different ways to lay out this information. And again, if there are things that you like about this content, so for example, this call out content box, if I want to use that in other ways, I could duplicate it and then move it down to this other area here. Ooh, grab the wrong one.
You may have duplicated the just the
I
text
duplicated the
there.
heading. Yep. Let's go here. I did. It's the group that I have to duplicate. This guy. There it is. So now you can see that like there's a lot of things that are predefined, but like I said earlier, this list view is going to be your best friend when you are working with your content. You can remove things that you don't need. You can move things around as you see fit. You can duplicate as I just did there to add to it. And you can even add more blocks to it as you are working with the rest of the page. So.
And just noting that this particular pattern is a very text forward pattern. So for folks who maybe don't have a lot of imagery, it's a great starting point for very like text heavy pages, which we know is a common need for folks. We also just wondered, right now this pattern has sort of like a gray background applied. Curious to get your thoughts on whether or not you'd like for that to start with a background or if it's ideal to just have the standard white. We figured we'd ask all of you and help decide. So if anyone has thoughts, please feel free to share in the chat. But right now by default it is gray. So yeah, if you have a preference. Looks like Linda said white.
I will also just for, you may have particular designs in mind. So I can come into the page itself, the page group itself, can tinker, can say, you know what, I want the red background instead. Or dark red, badger red, dark red, blue gray, light gray, or white. So there are options there. Sorry, I just seen what Kendra was writing in there as well. So So some options there with that. Yeah.
Awesome. I'll also just note this came up a little bit in discussions in the chat, but really what we're trying to do with this theme release is replicating features that existed in the UW theme as much as possible with some, like design flourishes and new abilities, but there will be a feature request process again once we launch, and that will be an opportunity to kind of keep upvoting or request new features as you build out your content. So that includes some things that were mentioned today that might not be available for launch, but you might still want to see in the theme.
Yeah, and it's important to reiterate that this theme, similar to the original UW theme, these are evolving. So just because something is done on day one of whenever launches doesn't mean that we're not still tinkering and not still building and not still iterating on, the designs. Some things might change just because we just go through a design process and we go, you know what, this just isn't working. We've gotten feedback. We need to change it. Okay. So things will change, features will be considered, and lots of things will continue to evolve with this. So don't ever hesitate to communicate with us with what works and what doesn't.
All right, and I'm just noticing we are already at 1, so we
Yep.
should probably wrap there. But thank you all. Appreciate your time today, and I hope you all have a wonderful Thursday and a great weekend as well.
Yeah, yeah.